My Little Pony Forever friendship. More like My Little Pony friendship until Generation 6. Hey guys, as many of you have probably seen, the 6th generation of My Little Pony has now been announced for 2027. Some of us are really excited about that, some of us don't care. I am personally in the camp where I am not going to watch it. I also didn't watch Generation 5, and I really don't like long intros, so I'm actually not going to talk about it that much because I don't have anything to say. Because we don't know anything about it, other than the fact that they basically just Control-Alt-Deleted Rarity and Applejack from the 4th generation lineup of main 6 ponies. And so I took this as an excuse to create my own My Little Pony generation, and I'm just gonna walk you through it now. Doesn't that sound like fun? Aren't we all having fun, guys? Isn't this fun? Aren't you smiling and laughing? Starting this project, I wanted to have some sort of concept of story, some sort of idea that tied all of the designs together, and of course something that is inextricable from the My Little Pony universe and the franchise as a whole is the concept of the rainbow. And so I decided to go with the 7 colors of the rainbow as a baseline concept for my version of the main 6, or the more aptly named Core 7 of the 3rd generation, obviously because there are 7 colors of the rainbow. I took the 7 colors of the rainbow and assigned positive traits to each color. Red is passion, orange is sincerity, yellow is joy, green is kindness, blue is determination, indigo is smarts, and purple is grace. Then I set out to find one pony for each trait and color. I broadened my horizons to look at ponies from all generations except for 5 because I know nothing about the 5th generation, and there are still a lot of ponies from Generation 1 to Generation 4 that I could choose from, and then I got to work. I'm showing you the designs based on who we meet first in chronological order in the story. And so we start off with Firefly, our little speedster Pegasus. Now, Firefly is a My Little Pony character that was introduced way back in the 1st generation of the My Little Pony franchise. She was also a big inspiration for the 4th generation's Rainbow Dash, and I think you can see both inspirations obviously playing a role in my design of this character. I gave her some freckles, but I kept her design mostly very basic, limiting it to only 3 or 4 colors, because I want her to seem like a relatively simple pony who wears her heart on her sleeves. The rainbow color I assigned to her is red, which you can see on the cutie mark that I gave her, and the little red glint in her eyes. She's the first pony that we meet, but we don't get a real introduction because she is speeding past our main character, whom I will now get into. Trying to come up with a story was proving to be a bit of a head scratcher for me right at the start. I didn't really know where to begin until the little bird of inspiration flapped its wings and landed on my shoulder, whispering into my ears, "You should include Megan Williams from the 1st generation." And then everything sort of just clicked into place. Megan Williams in Gen 1 of My Little Pony is a human girl and the designated bearer of the Rainbow of Light. In my story, obviously, as you can see, she is also a pony, but she doesn't start off this way. Megan Williams is a normal teenage girl in the human world, whose mother passed away when she was still very young. She's had to grow up very fast because she has many younger siblings and a whole farm to take care of. One of the things that her mother gives to her on her deathbed is this necklace, and she tells Megan to hold on to it for dear life and never to let anything bad happen to it ever. Of course, the inciting incident of the whole story is that Megan does accidentally drop and ruin this piece of jewelry. When she does so, a ray of light, 7 different colors, the colors of the rainbow, fly out of the piece of jewelry and, for lack of a better word, flee into a mirror in her mother's old bedroom. Megan, kind of freaking out, tries to repair the necklace, but realizes that she has to retrieve these colors, because along with the colors escaping the necklace, all color in her world also gets zapped. She then goes through the mirror, which turns out to be a portal into the land of ponies. So a bit like Equestria Girls, only there aren't pony versions and human versions of every single person. Here, unlike her home, color is everywhere and almost in abundance, which gives her some hope that she might be able to find these pieces of the rainbow to bring them home and to restore color into her world. In Ponyland, she meets many different ponies, and 7 of them help her along her journey and turn out to be vessels for the 7 colors of the rainbow. And through the journey, she has to learn a little bit about what it means to be a full person, to embrace all parts of herself, and as she retrieves each color of the rainbow, she also retrieves a part of herself that she kind of suppressed once her mother died and she had to take care of her home and the rest of her family. I actually probably should have included her mother's necklace in her pony design since she is going to be collecting all of the colors one by one, but I forgot to do that, so just pretend like it's there. Really just close your eyes and imagine it. I made her obviously less colorful and more mundane in comparison to the other ponies I created to really show that she is not from this world. That's also the reason I didn't give her a cutie mark. And here she is! Isn't she so cute? Minty is a clumsy and mischievous mare. At first glance, one might assume she's aloof, but she's actually very attentive and has a heart of gold, helping any pony she can to the best of her abilities, however lacking they may be. Megan meets Minty and becomes instant friends with her, Minty serving as a type of guide for Megan at the beginning of her journey in Ponyland. Design-wise, she mostly reminds me of Fluttershy, though that was not intentional at all. She is, of course, mostly inspired by Gen 3's very own Minty, who I think is only included as a background character in Gen 4. Which kind of is a point of contention for a lot of fans of My Little Pony, if I recall correctly. The biggest, I guess, creative decision I made was shifting her hue to be more greenish rather than the teal mint color that they had going on for Gen 3. Not because I think it's ugly or bad, but because there is no teal color of the rainbow, and I didn't want Minty's base coat to clash too much with the color of the rainbow that I assigned to her, which is obviously green, because Minty famously loves the color green. I assigned kindness to Minty not because I think that Minty is a character who appears to be the most kind out of all of the ponies, but because I wanted it to be a lesson, I guess, that niceness does not always equal kindness, and though many people misunderstand Minty and believe that she doesn't take anything seriously, she does care for other people deeply and spends most of her time trying to help others. I think our main character, Megan, will probably take some advice from Minty and not be so focused on trying to appear like she is kind towards her family because maybe she doesn't treat them the best always because she's always had a lot of responsibility and she believes that nobody gets her and nobody understands how hard she works and how much she does for everyone around her. I think she takes some advice from Minty and I guess learns to do kind things out of the goodness of her heart and not so much just because she wants to feel like she's a good person, if that makes sense. I tried to give her hair the sort of appearance of the texture of candy, and I hope I did an alright job at that, and then she is done! My favorite My Little Pony is and has always been Pinkie Pie. I get emotional during the last verse of A True True Friend, where Applejack sings about how much the townspeople love and need Pinkie Pie. In fact, a couple of days ago, I started crying over her song, I think Smile it's called, where she's singing about how much she loves just making people happy, and oh my god, it's happening again, I'm getting emotional. I love her so much that she was the first pony that I decided to include in my generation. There was no question about it. I need Pinkie Pie in my pony show or else I literally die. As you can probably see, she is mostly inspired by her Gen 3 design. That's the one that I like the most. But her personality in Gen 3 is a lot different. She's more of a leader type in the 3rd generation. And to me, I think Pinkie Pie suits the fun-loving personality more that she had in Gen 4. And so she stays mostly that way, although not quite as insane, I would say, as whatever she had going on in Gen 4. That is truly an insane character. Pinkie Pie is mostly just happy to be there. Megan and Pinkie Pie, much like Minty and Megan, become friends relatively quickly. I gave her the color yellow, obviously to signify joy, how that is a core value of hers. Maybe a little too core, maybe she doesn't know really how to handle negative emotions, but more on that later, I think. I gave her mane and tail huge curls, tried to keep her very bouncy and lively, and kept basically all of her design very pink, save for her cutie mark and eye color. I think I am probably she's one of the ones that I'm the most happy with design-wise, but I also just love Pinkie Pie's design in all of the generations, so I kind of couldn't go wrong no matter what. And here she is! The fourth pony that Megan meets and befriends in Ponyland is Lily Lightly. Her signature color is indigo, and her cutie mark is a lily pad. Lily Lightly is quick to embarrass, she's a little shy but always curious and quick to catch on to things. She's very smart but has little control over her horn and magic. This is partly to do with an emotional block that she has where she can't really freely explore her magic abilities due to the fact that her horn lights up whenever she laughs. This is something I've taken directly from Lily Lightly from Gen 3, and it's basically the sole reason why I chose her to be part of my Core 7, is because of this cute little fun fact. And so Lily tries to not show happiness and usually represses any positive feeling. This obviously creates an immediate friction between her and Pinkie Pie, who is all about happiness and joy and has a very hard time dealing with any negative emotions because she'd rather just pretend like they're not there. I really liked the idea of having a sort of built-in conflict within the core group of ponies right at the start, something to really give a little bit of a tension within the group, because I think it leaves room for arcs, character arcs and journeys that don't feel stale and flat. And so their friendship would start off really, really rocky, and then the more people that come into the friend group would make it easier for them to avoid talking to each other and avoid being around one another, but then obviously there would be a culmination where they have to sort of reconcile the differences between them, and finally change their relationship and friendship for the better, for good. And if you want to be a little bit silly, maybe we could even make it a little bit gay? What? Who said that? For her design, I struggled a bit because I had a really strong concept, but then I didn't know how to execute it. And also because I decided that she was going to be purple and a unicorn, she ended up looking a lot like Twilight Sparkle. And I don't know how to feel about that, because she's not supposed to be Twilight Sparkle, but now she looks very much like her, and she doesn't really look that much like her original influence. But maybe that's okay. Maybe that's okay too. Here she is! Removing Applejack from the My Little Pony G6 lineup was definitely a choice I do not agree with, so here I offer you my take on the pony. Applejack to me is very foundational. I mean, she was in the first generation and she's been a staple since. I do really love the G4 version, but with my design, like many other designs, take for the most part from the G3 design. Applejack is a sincere mare. Megan relates to her as they both live in the country, and I think Megan also learns a thing or two from Applejack about what it's like to actually love working and doing something for the love of it, rather than feeling like you have to do it and pretending like you want to do it but not really wanting to do it. You know, Applejack is very upfront and earnest about everything that she does and how much she loves doing it, and I think Megan has a lot to learn in that regard. Her personality takes more from Applejack in the G4 show. I gave her the orange color of the rainbow to signify her earnestness and sincerity. I wasn't a huge fan of this design. Well, it's maybe not the design I have a problem with, it's more so my execution of it. I think I maybe could have given her a second attempt. I think the vision is there, but, you know, it's a little weaker compared to the others in my opinion. And then she's done! For the next pony, I obviously had to make another Pegasus because we can't just have one Pegasus in the whole Core 7. And so I scoured through the different G3 ponies, the different Pegasi, and I came across the character StarSong, who I also remember. I think I either had a toy of her or I watched her in one of the DVD specials. And I really liked the idea that she was sort of a performer. I thought that fit very well with color purple of the rainbow, that I wanted to symbolize grace. And so I imagined her to be kind of like full of herself, a little ridiculous, a little hoity-toity. You know, honestly, kind of reminding me a little bit of Rarity, but just like way more obnoxious and annoying. But then I was between her and this other Pegasus Starcatcher, whose design I liked more, and then I just ended up fusing them together and created StarSong with the design of Starcatcher. Her cutie mark is a musical note, and her signature color is violet, which symbolizes grace. Also, maybe it's not that noticeable, but I wanted to make the final two ponies a little bit more extravagant, or give them more of a wow factor design-wise than the earlier ponies that are introduced to Megan on her journey. Because in this story, our main character Megan doesn't just meet all of the ponies at the same time. It's a very gradual, probably, if it was a show, it would probably take like the first half of the first season to meet and befriend all of the horses. And I imagine that StarSong would be a pony that is sort of in the background. She's kind of the village it girl, very popular and not very well liked by our main characters, I think. They probably think that she's a little bit too much, or that she's a little bit annoying, because she's, you know, she's full of herself. But then when they actually talk to her and get to know her, they all seem to get along just fine. Comet Tail is a strange mare and a bit of a loner. She has grand theories about the universe and will ramble to anyone or anything who will listen to her. She spends a lot of the first part of the story cooped up in her little observatory, being shrouded in mystery and darkness up until our official introduction to her as a character, wherein we find out that she is one crazy gal. I gave her the color blue for determination because no matter what, she is determined to find out the truth about the universe. And she'll stop at nothing. Her design is definitely the most convoluted, or the one that's got the most going on, and that's not on accident. I wanted her to feel like the final important character introduced, right? Like everything's kind of building up in the first part of the story for us to finally meet her, and then for her to be integrated into the group. Comet Tail is based off of the G3 pony Comet Tail. There's not much information on her. She probably just started out as a toy, but then in G4, I think she's a male character here. My design does not take that into consideration, though I am now realizing that I basically just forcefully detransitioned her, which is not a great look. Maybe she could be a he-him lesbian, or he can be a he-him lesbian. Also, an idea I had, and I don't know really if I am liking the final design of this, but an idea I had was to give Megan the 7 colors of the rainbow and incorporate them into her design a little bit. So once she's met them all and like captured the rainbow, the color of the rainbow, once that's done, she would look more like this. Again, I don't know if I like this design. I don't know if I like this concept even. Maybe I do want her to just always kind of look dull in comparison to the other ones. Would you like to see designs for when all of the ponies go through the mirror dimension and come into the human world? Because I imagine that like that's one of the things that happens near the end. Like they all have to go back into Megan's world, maybe fight someone, you know. I have some ideas for the story, but I mean, they're not really finalized, and it's not like I'm really gonna do anything with it. But you know, maybe I could make another video about it if people want to see that. Because I have kind of grown attached to some of these designs, and I would like to see them as humans. And what a journey we've been on, guys. What do you think about the story? Please leave your comments down below. Who's your favorite? Thanks for watching, bye!